The forest was silent, but not entirely still. Mist curled around the ancient trees like ghostly fingers, hiding shadows and secrets, the kind of silence that made one feel watched, even when the eyes belonged to nothing alive. At the forest's edge, a small cottage huddled beneath the branches, its wooden walls worn with age, smoke curling lazily from its stone chimney. This was Ilara's home, a place untouched by the kingdoms beyond, where healing herbs grew in neat rows and sunlight barely reached the ground through the dense canopy. Ilara moved inside, her bare feet brushing over the cold, wooden floor. She had a quiet presence, almost like the forest itself. Her hair was dark, loose, framing a face that seemed soft and gentle, yet capable of strength. She whispered to herself as she mixed herbs in a clay bowl, the scent of lavender and rosemary filling the air. She had lived alone for many years, caring for injured travelers, lost animals, and occasionally, those brave enough to cross into her forest seeking aid. That morning, the wind carried an unusual scent. Iron and smoke. Sharp and metallic. Ilara paused, her intuition prickling. Something was wrong. Her heart, accustomed to the calm rhythm of the forest, skipped a beat. She stepped outside, scanning the misty path that led deeper into the woods. Then she saw him. He lay in the fog, half hidden by shadows and fallen leaves. His armor was dented, streaked with blood and dirt. An arrow protruded from his shoulder. Another cut across his side. His chest rose and fell unevenly. Each breath a struggle, but it was his eyes that stopped her. Golden, like sunlight filtered through honey, but fierce, commanding, and wary. Even in pain, he exuded power. He was a king, she knew it, instinctively. El Ilara, she whispered to herself, unsure if she had spoken aloud. She had never seen him before, yet something about him called to her, urgent, impossible to ignore. Carefully, she approached, holding her hands out, as if the forest itself had given her permission to touch this stranger. The wounded man stirred, his eyes narrowing at first in suspicion. Then, a low growl escaped him, almost human, almost something else. The sound made Ilara flinch, but she stood her ground. "I will help you," she said softly. "You are hurt badly. Come with me." He laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that carried both pain and pride. "Why would you help me? I am no friend. I am dangerous." "Danger does not matter here," Ilara replied. "Only life." The man, KL, as she would soon learn, tried to rise but fell back to the ground with a groan. She knelt beside him, examining his wounds. Her fingers were gentle, skilled, moving over torn armor and ripped flesh, finding what could be healed with herbs and care. KL tensed at every touch, his golden eyes flicking around, almost afraid of surrendering. "You are not like others," he said, voice strained. "You do not fear me." "I do not need to fear," she said. "I only need to help." Night fell quickly, the forest darkening, swallowing shapes and colors. The first stars pierced the sky like distant fires, cold and bright. Ilara worked by candlelight, binding his wounds with cloth and salves she had brewed herself. The fire crackled, its warmth a fragile shield against the chill that seeped from the walls and through the mist outside. KL watched her silently, his pride warring with the undeniable relief of being tended to. He was a king, a leader of a powerful wolf army, feared across the lands. Yet here, in this small, humble cottage, he felt powerless. For the first time in years, he was not commanding, not controlling. He was just a man, and he was afraid. Ilara noticed the tension, but she did not flinch. "You are safe here," she said. "Rest. Let your body recover. Your strength will return." He frowned, a frown that did not reach his eyes. "Safe? In the forest? Alone?" "You are not alone," she said, "and the forest watches over those who respect it." Her words were simple, but they carried weight. KL had led men and beasts alike, fought battles and survived betrayal. Yet no command, No strategy. No loyal soldier could grant him the comfort he felt when he allowed himself to trust her. Hours passed. Elara worked tirelessly, fetching water, crushing herbs, whispering words of healing like soft prayers. Kael lay quiet, though his mind raced with the past, the battles, the enemies he had made, and the lives he had failed to protect. He had never felt such care given without expectation. Never had anyone touched his wounds and his pride with equal gentleness. Outside, the mist thickened, coiling around the trees and creeping closer to the cottage. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled, a lonely sound that echoed through the forest. Kael's ears twitched. His instincts, sharp and relentless, sensed the call of his pack, the pull of loyalty and power. But he did not move. He stayed, because he could not abandon her, and perhaps he did not want to. By midnight, Kael's breathing had slowed. The pain lessened by the careful touch of Elara's hands. He opened his eyes and saw her sitting quietly, gazing into the fire. For a moment, the world outside the cottage, the war, the curses, the rival clans did not exist. There was only the firelight, the soft rustle of leaves, and the strange, fragile bond forming between healer and king. "You have healed me," Kael said quietly, his voice almost disbelief. "Yet, I am not safe. My enemies will come. My clan will." "Search." Elara's eyes met his, unwavering. "Then they will find you stronger. And, perhaps, not alone." A shiver ran through him, not from pain, but from the truth in her words. He had always believed that strength required isolation, that leadership demanded solitude. Yet here, beside a simple healer in a quiet forest, he realized that perhaps strength could be shared, perhaps it could even be gentle. Hours slipped into the early hours before dawn. The fire burned low. Outside, the forest was still, though the wind whispered of movement, of eyes watching through the mist. Kael felt the pull of his pack, the echo of the wolves he led with fearsome loyalty. He had survived battles that would have killed lesser men, yet a quiet fear crept in, a fear he had not felt for centuries. Elara stirred, sensing the tension. "You feel it," she said softly. "The forest, or them," Kael nodded slowly. "Both. Wolves. Humans. Enemies. They will come for me. For you. For this place." Her hands froze, hovering above the still burning fire. "Then, we will face it together," she whispered. The first hint of sunlight touched the horizon, spilling golden light across the misty trees. In that fragile, fleeting moment, the forest held its breath, and then, a low, resonant sound broke the silence, more than wind, more than animal. A howl, deep and commanding, followed by another and another, until the mist seemed alive with eyes and teeth and loyalty. Kael's head lifted, golden eyes narrowing. His lips curved in a faint, unreadable smile. "They have found me," he said. Elara's heart beat faster. Not from fear, but from wonder. She had never seen so many wolves, and yet she felt no threat. Their presence was powerful, almost sacred. The mist parted slightly, and she saw the shapes of hundreds of creatures, their eyes reflecting the dawn, their growls low and protective. Kael struggled to rise, but Elara helped him to his feet. "Do you command them?" she asked. He nodded. "They obey me. They will protect you, if I command it." The wind shifted, carrying with it a new tension. Outside the circle of trees, shadows moved, distant and ominous. Something beyond the forest had noticed the wounded king, and whatever it was, it did not come in peace. Elara and Kael stood side by side, surrounded by the low growls of the Alpha's loyal pack. He was wounded, but not broken. She was small, but not powerless. And together, in the forest where mist and magic wove through every branch, they were ready to face what would come next. The sun rose higher, spilling light across the cottage, but the shadows of the forest remained. And in those shadows, eyes watched. waiting for the right moment to strike. The healer had saved the king. But by sunrise, the forest whispered a warning. His enemies were coming, and the battle had only just begun. The dawn light filtered through the mist, soft and gray, touching the tops of the ancient trees. The forest seemed calm, but Alara knew better. She had spent years listening to its quiet whispers. There was tension in the air, a tight coil of energy that prickled her skin. She stood at the edge of the clearing, looking out at the movement in the fog. Kale was beside her, still recovering from his wounds, but his golden eyes burned with the alertness of a true alpha. He did not speak, yet Alara felt the weight of his thoughts as clearly as if he had whispered them aloud. His pack surrounded the cottage, moving like shadows with the mist. Their growls were low, steady, a warning and a promise, all at once. Alara had never seen such a display of loyalty. Hundreds of wolves, gray, white, black, circled the clearing. They watched her, but not with hostility. They were fierce, protective, and magnificent. Each movement of Kale's hand or shift of his gaze seemed to ripple through them, and she realized the truth. They obeyed him completely. "Your pack. They will not harm me," she said softly, unsure if she spoke aloud or simply to herself. Kale's lips curved faintly. "They sense your heart. Their instincts are sharp, but even they know who is friend and who is not. You are safe. For now." Alara nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. The power of the forest, the king, and his pack pressed on her senses. And yet there was also an undeniable comfort. The wolves were wild, yet they were bound to Kale's will, and by extension, to her presence here. Kale stepped closer to her. "You have done more than heal my body," he said, his voice low, almost intimate. "You have restored something I thought lost. Not just strength, but hope." Alara glanced at him, unsure if she was ready to hear such words from a man who carried the weight of a kingdom and a curse. "I only did what I could," she said. "Healing, sometimes it is only about trust. Letting go enough to receive help." He studied her, golden eyes flicking with curiosity and something else she could not name. "I have led men into battle, commanded beasts with fury, and faced enemies who would tear me apart without mercy. And yet, here, with you, I feel weak and safe. I do not understand it." "Perhaps safety is not weakness," she replied, a quiet wisdom in her voice. "Perhaps it is a kind of strength, one you have never known because you have always had to stand alone." He looked away, his jaw tight. "Standing alone has kept me alive. The curse, my bloodline." His words faded, caught in the wind, and she saw the pain beneath the pride. Kale's family, his past victories, and the weight of leadership had left scars invisible to all but him. Alara stepped closer, placing a hand gently on his arm. "You do not have to carry it alone," she said. "Not anymore." A sudden howl tore through the mist, sharper and closer than the morning had offered. The wolves stiffened, ears flicking, bodies tensing. Kale's eyes narrowed. "They have come," he said simply. "The enemies I have feared, they approach." Alara's heart quickened, but Kale's calm presence grounded her. She realized that despite the tension, he had never truly wavered. He was a king, even wounded. And now, with her by his side, he was something more, a man capable of connection, capable of trusting. The mist shifted, and a figure emerged, barely visible in the gray light. It was humanoid, but there was something unnatural about the way it moved. Graceful, deliberate, almost otherworldly. Its eyes glimmered like cold fire, and a voice carried through the air, smooth and cold. "Alpha King," the figure called. "You have been wounded. The forest shelters you now, but it will not save you for long. Heal him, healer, or everything you love will burn." Alara's hands clenched. "Who are you?" she demanded. "What do you want?" The figure did not answer, only extended one pale, gloved hand, and then vanished into the fog, leaving only the echo of its words behind. Kale's expression darkened. "They are not ordinary enemies," he said. "A rival clan. Or worse. They wield powers I cannot name. The warning is real. And now, we must act." Ilara looked around at the circle of wolves. "Your pack. They can help. Right?" Kale's gaze swept over them, fierce and commanding. "They are loyal, yes. But loyalty does not equal victory. They will protect this place as long as I command it, but the danger grows, and I cannot leave the forest." The healer realized then that she was more than just a caretaker. She was a part of this defense. A shield, not of teeth or claws, but of knowledge, skill, and courage. Her heart beat faster at the thought, but she did not hesitate. For the next hours, they prepared. Ilara gathered herbs with healing and defensive properties, crushed roots into powders, and set charms at the cottage's corners, whispering protective words she had learned from her mother. Kale trained in silence, moving carefully despite his wounded body, ensuring the wolves remained disciplined and alert. Every step of his preparation carried the weight of authority. Yet beneath it, there was an unspoken trust in her abilities, a recognition that she was vital to what was coming. As the sun climbed higher, the mist began to thin, revealing shapes in the distance, shadows moving between the trees, deliberate and watchful. Ilara's pulse quickened. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. "Fear is natural," he said, "but it is the way we face it that matters. Stand with me." She nodded, drawing strength from his presence. The healer and the king, side by side, surrounded by 100 wolves, a fragile but formidable barrier against the unknown. And in that unity, a bond began to form, stronger than the forest, stronger than the mist, stronger than fear itself. The shadows drew closer, moving with purpose, yet the wolves advanced in a fluid, disciplined wave, teeth bared, low growls vibrating in the clearing. Kale's command was unspoken but absolute. He did not merely lead, he controlled the forest's energy through his pack. Ilara marveled at the connection, at the balance between power and loyalty, between authority and trust. "You are more than a healer," Kale said quietly, almost to himself. "You are a force. Perhaps the only force capable of helping me survive what comes." Ilara glanced at him, surprised by the intensity in his gaze. She had expected a warrior, a king, perhaps even arrogance. But not this recognition, not this openness. And yet, it terrified her as much as it drew her in. A distant scream cut through the forest, and the wolves stiffened, ears pricked. The warning was clear. The emissary's threat was not empty. Danger approached faster than either of them had anticipated. Kale's eyes glowed golden in the shifting sunlight. "Prepare yourself," he said. "They will test us. They will test me. And they will test you." Ilara's stomach twisted, but she did not move back. She had seen death, pain, and despair in her life, but never in the company of someone who made her feel like hope was possible. Even in the darkest hour, the first figure emerged from the mist, humanoid, cloaked in shadows, moving with unnatural grace. The air grew heavy, the magic of the forest reacting to its presence. The wolves growled, their stance rigid, yet controlled. Kale's hand moved subtly. A signal. And the pack shifted, forming a defensive line around the cottage. Ilara's heart pounded. She had healed a king, yes, but now she faced the realization that healing alone might not be enough. The forest, the wolves, the king, and herself were about to be tested in ways that neither magic nor skill could fully predict. And then, a second figure appeared. Identical in form, each step deliberate, precise, carrying the same warning energy. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Ilara's breath caught in her throat. She realized then that the healer's role was not simply to tend wounds. She would have to be part of the strategy, part of the defense, part of a bond strong enough to withstand the coming storm. Kale's gaze met hers, golden eyes steady and commanding. "Do you trust me?" he asked. Alara nodded. I do. The golden light of the rising sun caught on his armor, glinting against the mist, and for the first time, she saw not just a wounded king, but a man who could rise again stronger, wiser, and perhaps not alone. But in the distance, the shadows of the emissaries moved with purpose, signaling that the forest, the king, and the healer's sanctuary would soon be tested in ways neither could yet imagine. The wolves growled in unison, and Kale stepped forward. Then let them come, he said. We are ready. Alara clenched her hands, her heart racing. Together, they would face the unknown, but the forest had secrets, and the danger was far from over. The first strike was coming. The forest had grown quiet once more, but the calm was fragile, stretched thin like a thread about to snap. The mist curled around the trees, hiding movement, hiding intent. Alara stood by the cottage, her hands resting on the edge of the wooden table, trying to steady her racing heart. Kale moved silently around the clearing, checking the wolves, ensuring they remained alert. Despite his wounds, his presence commanded respect, his authority radiating in every glance, every gesture. Alara had been with him for days now, tending to his injuries, strengthening him with herbs, poultices, and careful attention. And yet, she sensed there was more to his pain than physical injury. Something darker lingered beneath the surface, a weight he carried alone, a curse that clung to his bloodline and shadowed his very being. She approached him quietly. Kale, she said softly, you have been tense all morning. Is it the forest? Or something else? Kale stopped and turned, his golden eyes meeting hers. There was a flicker of something unreadable, pain, fear, and an unspoken truth. It is neither the forest nor the wolves, he said. It is the curse, my family's burden. It has followed me for years, unseen but always felt. Every act of mercy, every hesitation, has allowed it to grow stronger. Alara's brow furrowed. A curse? What kind of curse? He hesitated, the weight of it almost crushing. It is a shadow on my bloodline, a darkness that awakens when I show weakness, when I hesitate. It feeds on doubt, on fear, on failure. It has destroyed clans before mine, and will destroy mine if I do not control it. Her hands trembled slightly, though she hid it behind calm fingers. She had healed many wounds, but a curse was different. It could not be seen, could not be stitched closed. Then you must face it, she said. Not alone, but with help. Kale's lips curved faintly, almost a smile, though it did not reach his eyes. And who would dare help me face this shadow? A healer? A woman of the forest? It is a dangerous thing to involve yourself in my life, Alara. You could be destroyed. I have already chosen to be here, she said firmly. I do not turn from what is right. You are more than your curse, Kale. You are strong, and you have a heart capable of more than you know. He studied her, and for a moment, the pride that had defined him for so long softened. Kale had faced enemies, betrayal, and death itself. Yet never had he encountered someone who could see beyond the power, beyond the title, and look straight into the truth of who he was. Alara saw the man beneath the armor and the crown, and it terrified and thrilled him in equal measure. The forest seemed to hold its breath as the two stood in quiet understanding. But the stillness did not last. From the edge of the clearing, a sudden rustle broke the silence. Kale's head snapped toward the sound, ears twitching, muscles coiling. The wolves responded instantly, forming a protective circle around the cottage. Their growls were low and warning, vibrating through the earth itself. Alara's pulse quickened, but Kale placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Stay calm, he whispered. I sense them. The emissaries are near, and they are testing us. It is time. From the mist, figures emerged, humanoid, yet impossible to define. Their movements were precise, deliberate, almost unnatural. Alara could feel their presence pressing on her senses, cold and commanding, as if the forest itself resisted their intrusion. Kale stepped forward, his golden eyes blazing, his voice carrying through the clearing. "You will not harm this place, or any who dwell within it," he declared. The wolves shifted, their positions fluid and disciplined, ready to strike at his command. The emissaries halted, studying him, their movements like shadows in the fog. "Alpha King," one said, voice smooth and cold, "your strength wanes, your curse grows. Yield to us, and your forest may remain untouched. Refuse, and it will burn." Kale's eyes narrowed, the weight of his bloodline and the curse heavy on his shoulders. Yet in that moment, he realized something. He was no longer standing alone. Elara's presence, the trust in her eyes, had become part of his strength. He drew a deep breath and stepped forward. "I do not yield," he said, "and my forest will not fall. Not while I stand." The figures advanced, but Kale's command over the wolves was immediate. They moved as one, a living wall of fur and muscle, forcing the emissaries to pause. Elara watched, heart pounding, as the power of the king and his pack unfolded before her. The forest seemed to respond, branches shifting subtly, shadows moving to hide or reveal, as if the land itself was allied with him. A sudden flash of light, a spark of magic, shot from the emissary's hands, striking near the edge of the clearing. The wolves leapt aside instinctively, and Kale's armor gleamed in the brief illumination. He winced, the pain in his side flaring, but he did not falter. Instead, he moved closer to Elara, his voice low, filled with intensity. "Trust me," he said. "Now, more than ever." Elara nodded. She had trusted him before, but now it was a trust tested by danger, by darkness, by the unknown. She moved beside him, her own hands glowing faintly with the essence of her healing, ready to defend, ready to support, ready to stand. The emissaries hesitated, perhaps sensing the bond between the healer and the king. Kale's golden eyes burned with authority, but there was more now, a vulnerability that made his strength human, accessible, and real. Elara realized then that he was not just a king commanding a pack. He was a man willing to face his deepest fears, a man learning to trust another fully. The first figure lunged forward, moving with unnatural speed. A wolf growled and snapped, but Kale intercepted, using the pack's coordinated movement to block the attack. Elara stepped in, channeling her energy into a protective barrier around the cottage. Sparks of light flickered, illuminating the fog and mist, casting long shadows that danced across the clearing. Time seemed to stretch. Each movement was deliberate, a test of skill, of power, of heart. Kale moved with precision, his body still wounded. Yet every strike and command carried the weight of authority and trust. Elara stayed close, her presence a constant reassurance, her energy amplifying his strength and softening the blows. Then, in a brief pause, Kale faltered slightly, pain searing through him. He staggered, and for a moment, the curse's shadow seemed ready to claim him. But Elara's hand shot out, gripping his arm, her touch steady, grounding him. "You are not alone," she said. "I am here. We face it together." Kale's breath hitched. He had never allowed anyone this close, never trusted anyone so completely. Yet in her eyes, he saw unwavering faith, a belief in him that cut through the darkness of his curse. He drew strength from it, standing taller, moving with renewed resolve. The emissaries recoiled slightly, sensing the shift. Kale's eyes glowed brighter, golden and fierce, the wolves responding with a howl that echoed through the forest like thunder. The energy around the cottage shifted, the forest itself leaning into the defense, branches twisting, roots shifting subtly beneath the mist. Elara watched, awestruck. She realized that her role was more than healer. It was part of the power that could challenge even the ancient curse. Her connection with Kale, the trust they shared, had become a force stronger than fear, stronger than darkness. As the confrontation reached its peak, the emissaries withdrew slightly, retreating into the mist. Their threat was far from over. But for now, the forest was safe, the wolves vigilant, and Kale, standing, stronger than he had in days. He turned to Alara, his golden eyes softening. "You have given me more than healing," he said quietly. "You have given me trust. And trust is a weapon against the curse I thought would destroy me." Alara shook her head, smiling faintly. "We are stronger together. The forest, the wolves, you, and I. We can face what comes next." Kale studied her, a storm of emotions flickering across his face. Gratitude, admiration, something tender and unspoken. The bond between them had shifted, deepened under fire and fear. Forged in trust and shared danger, the mist began to lift, sunlight piercing the canopy, revealing the forest in a quiet, fragile beauty. But the emissaries' presence lingered, their threat distant but unmistakable. Kale's golden eyes scanned the horizon, and Alara knew that this was only the beginning. The test was not yet complete. Kale's hand brushed lightly against hers. "We will face the curse together," he said, "and we will endure, whatever comes. IPA. IPA. Alara nodded, heart pounding with a mixture of fear and hope. The forest, the king, and his wolves had survived this trial. But the shadows of the curse and the emissaries still loomed. Together, they would have to be stronger than ever, and in that quiet moment, amidst mist and morning light, she realized something profound. The healer had not just healed the king's body. She had touched his heart, awakened a part of him long buried, and in doing so, had become part of the power that would shape their future. The shadows beyond the forest stirred once more. A reminder that danger was patient, relentless, and unyielding. But Alara and Kale, bound by trust, courage, and something deeper, were ready to face it together. The forest was bathed in the first golden light of dawn, mist curling around the ancient trees, slowly lifting to reveal the clearing and the cottage where Alara and Kale had stood together through the long night. The wolves stretched and shifted, their fur glinting in the sunlight, alert and ready. The air was heavy with the scent of earth and dew, but beneath it lingered tension, a reminder that the danger was far from gone. Alara stood at the edge of the clearing, her hands resting on the wooden table outside the cottage. She looked at Kale, who was pacing slowly, testing his wounded side, but moving with a strength that had grown over the past days. He had faced the curse, faced the emissaries, and yet he remained standing, not just physically, but in spirit. "The emissaries will come again," Kale said, his voice steady, golden eyes scanning the distant mist. "They will test us more than before. The curse does not forgive weakness." Alara stepped closer. "Then we face them. Together," she said. "You are stronger than the curse when you do not stand alone." Kale's eyes softened as he looked at her. "You have changed me, Alara. Not just healed me, but reminded me that strength can exist with trust, with compassion, with connection. I do not have to bear it all alone." The wolves stirred, low growls rolling through the clearing, sensing the approach of unseen danger. The first emissary appeared at the edge of the forest, humanoid and pale, moving with deliberate grace. Then another, and another, until the shadows took shape as a small but organized force. They carried an energy that made the forest tremble, a dark magic that seemed to whisper of curses and power long forgotten. Kale stepped forward, standing tall despite the faint scar across his side. His presence radiated authority, and the wolves shifted, forming a living barrier between the cottage and the approaching threat. Alara joined him, her hands glowing faintly with healing energy, ready not only to mend wounds, but to protect, to strengthen, and to support. "You face more than strength," Kale said quietly, his voice carrying to her alone. "You face what has haunted me for centuries. And yet, you stand with me. That is what matters now." The emissaries raised their hands, a pulse of dark energy rolling toward the clearing. The wolves reacted instantly, moving with precision to protect their king and the healer. Kale called out, his voice carrying an unearthly authority. And the wolves moved as one, intercepting the magical assault. Trees shivered as the energy collided with the ground, and the mist swirled violently, obscuring everything in its path. Alara stepped forward, channeling her energy into the clearing. Light danced across her hands, warm and steady, weaving with Kale's presence to form a protective barrier. She felt the weight of the curse pressing against her, trying to seep into her heart, but she stood firm. "You are not alone," she whispered, feeling Kale's hand brush lightly against hers. "We face it together. Always." Kale's golden eyes met hers, and in that glance, they shared a bond deeper than words, forged in trust, danger, and the quiet understanding of one another's hearts. He drew strength not just from his own power, but from her courage, her compassion, her unwavering presence beside him. The emissaries lunged, moving with unnatural speed, but Kale and the wolves were ready. Every step he took, every gesture, commanded loyalty and precision. Alara followed, her energy intertwining with his authority, creating a force neither curse nor magic could easily break. The forest seemed to respond, branches twisting, roots shifting subtly, hiding the clearing and aiding the defenders. Kale faltered briefly, pain flaring in his side, the curse pressing on him like a shadow eager to claim victory. But Alara's hand found his arm, steadying him. "Do not fight it alone," she said. "You do not have to." The golden light in Kale's eyes blazed brighter, merging with the energy from Alara's hands. The wolves howled, a single, unified sound that echoed through the forest, shaking the mist and forcing the shadows to hesitate. Kale's voice rang out, commanding, fearless. "You will not take this forest. You will not take my life. And you will not break what we have built together." The emissaries recoiled slightly, sensing the shift in power. Kale's strength, amplified by trust and connection, was more than any curse or dark magic could match. Alara's heart swelled as she realized the truth. Healing was not just physical, it was emotional, spiritual. And in this moment, it had given Kale the power to face his deepest fear. The battle became a dance of light and shadow. Magic clashed with instinct, strategy with raw power. Yet every movement of Kale and Alara was synchronized, as if the forest itself had aligned with their bond. The wolves were more than soldiers, they were extensions of Kale's will, fierce and loyal, guiding the energy of the clearing like a tide against the encroaching dark. At the height of the confrontation, Kale's armor caught the light of Alara's energy, glinting like gold against the mist. He moved with precision and courage, not just as a king commanding his pack, but as a man who had found a strength beyond fear, beyond pride. Alara's presence beside him was a steady flame, unwavering, amplifying his resolve. The emissaries, realizing they could not overpower the combined force of Kale, Alara, and the wolves, retreated slowly into the mist. Their shadows dissolved as they withdrew, leaving behind only the echoes of their threat and the lingering tension of what might return. Kale dropped to one knee, breathing heavily, sweat and blood mixing with the light of dawn. Alara rushed to his side, her hands glowing as she touched his wounds, steadying and healing, her presence a balm for both body and spirit. "You are stronger than I imagined," she said softly, her fingers brushing against his armor. Kale looked up at her, golden eyes shining, a mix of exhaustion and admiration. "No," he said quietly. "We are stronger. You have given me more than healing. You have given me trust, courage, and a bond I thought lost forever. You have changed me, Alara." Alara smiled faintly, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "We face the future together," she said. "Whatever comes, we face it side by side." The wolves gathered around them, settling into a protective circle, eyes watchful but calm. The forest itself seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, the mist lifting fully to reveal sunlight streaming through the canopy. Kale rose slowly, offering a hand to Alara. She took it, and together they stepped into the clearing, standing side by side, not as king and healer, but as equals, bonded by trust, courage, and shared trials. Kale's gaze swept across the forest. "The curse will not end today," he admitted, "but it has lost its power over me. It cannot break what we have built." Ilara nodded, understanding the depth of his words. Healing had been more than mending wounds. It had been about awakening strength, restoring hope, and forging a connection that no curse, no enemy, could sever. As the sun rose higher, casting long shadows across the forest floor, a distant howl echoed. The wolves answered, their voices united. A reminder that while this battle had ended, the world remained full of challenges and dangers. Kael and Ilara, standing together in the golden light, were ready. "You have healed more than my body," Kael said softly, turning to her. "You have healed my heart, my soul. I owe you more than I can ever repay." "You owe nothing," Ilara replied. "You only need to live. You only need to trust. And I will remain by your side." For a long moment, they stood in silence, feeling the warmth of the sun, the strength of the forest, and the loyalty of the wolves surrounding them. The mist had cleared, but the memory of danger remained, a reminder that the world was vast, full of magic, power, and shadows. Yet here, in this fragile sanctuary, they had found something stronger than fear. Kael bent slightly, brushing a hand across her cheek in a gesture both gentle and reverent. "Then we will face the future," he said. "Together." Ilara's heart swelled, and she placed her hand over his, the touch steady, full of unspoken promises. "Together," she echoed. The forest seemed to exhale, the sunlight spilling across the clearing in waves of warmth and light. The wolves settled around them, vigilant but calm, guardians of both the forest and the bond between the healer and the king. The mist and shadows may return. The curse may test them again. But for now, they had triumphed. Kael looked at her, golden eyes reflecting both gratitude and admiration. "By your side, I am no longer afraid," he said. "And that is more than victory." Ilara smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. "And I am no longer alone," she said. The forest was alive with light, the wolves resting in quiet loyalty, and the wind whispered through the trees, carrying the promise of a new day, a day where trust, courage, and love could stand against even the darkest shadows. Together, healer and king, they faced the rising sun, ready for whatever came next.